Good evening and welcome to one of the few shows whose viewers are evidently so bored with the programme they amuse themselves by drawing it. As a result, next week's guests will be a nude woman and a bowl of fruit. In the news this week on GMTV there are complaints that Mr. Motivator's replacement is pushing viewers too far. Road rage and a fight breaks out over the last space in the National Theatre car park. And in Geneva, there's a daring escape from a local vivisection clinic. With Ian Hislop tonight, the man who Mystic Meg said would never leave the National Lottery, Gordon Kennedy. And on Paul Merton's team, a singer-songwriter who now lives in Dublin, making him the only musician in Ireland not to have won the Eurovision Song Contest, Elvis Costello. So as Trevor MacDonald on the other side launches into some of the more worthy and colourless stories from the week's news, let's see if we can't do the same. Ian and Gordon, what crisis?
These are people showing an inspector she can count up to 4.
Gillian Shepherd.
And there's somebody trying to spank John Major. And this is the new naughty dialing, 0898 Shepherd for spanking. Because Gillian Shepherd said she'd like to see people beaten with wooden sticks. Or I think that would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
She thought it might help.
And this was somewhat against John Major's policy at the moment, apparently. Although who knows, by the time the programme goes out, he may have taken another U-turn. He phoned her on her mobile phone, which is the phone we saw there, apparently.
And what were some of Gillian's proposals, do you remember?
I've been propositioned by Gillian Shepherd. Have you?
No, fortunately not. I'm very happy to say no. She was suggesting bringing back Janet and John books.
That'd be good. John Major character. John sees bandwagon. John jumps on bandwagon.
Are you in the pro or anti-caning group then?
I'm anti it.
I'm pro.
Spank me, Ian.
No, I was spanked at school. I was caned. And it turned me into a sensible and balanced human being.
And let's face it, a little thin on top, to be fair.
I don't think the link between spanking and baldness has
Well,
been established.
I was never spanked.
Benny Hill. Benny Hill used to spank that bloke on the top of the head and he was bald. So there's an obvious link.
Didn't you used to be beaten by a whalebone in leather at your school?
Yeah, it's Jesuit school, Ferrolu it's called. It's a very nasty sort of thing, yeah. And it's sort of like bang, and it's all that.
So they really thought it through.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it's the old Jesuit.
People with a bit of wood, but get a bit of whalebone and a bit of leather.
It's the old Jesuit thing. Give me a boy of 7 and I'll show you a damn good time.
Home Office figures suggest that on average a schoolboy is 13 years 5 months when he first commits truancy, tries alcohol and cannabis and has his first sexual experience. Still sounds like one hell of an afternoon. Paul and Elvis.
This is the Queen in Thailand. Drop at this ceremony of the polo mints. Jeffrey Archer showing he knows how to put on a pair of glasses.
Lord Archer suggested a change in the succession so that the women could take charge, which seems like a pretty good idea, given the options now.
Well, yes, that's
although
true.
The one paper did point out this week that if this had been the case, then Victoria's daughter Victoria would have been queen, and then Kaiser Wilhelm would have been king of both England and Germany. And there would have been no need for the First World War, so there you go.
Which was basically a family dispute, and then everybody else had to join in.
So it was all down to bad schooling.
Yeah. History rewritten on Have I Got News For You?
And Jeffrey Archer is putting this forward. I was reading this thing,
Some people
he
think
writes
he's a god.
every Jeffrey Archer novel, he certainly the last one, he goes through 17 rewrites.
Why so few?
Yes, Lord Archer contentiously says he wants the eldest child to inherit the throne regardless of sex. Good news for Camilla. Ian and Gordon.
That's Einstein. Albert. It's a load of paper.
Now, that's his cameo performance in 4 Theorems in a Wedding. And that's the reception.
Someone discovered some papers. They were auctioned off at Christie's, I think. And in the papers there was some rather unpleasant letters to his wife saying, if we're going to stay together, you've got to do the following X things, which is cook dinner for me and not talk to me and generally keep out of my study. Well, I'm being very brainy. Sadly, he was actually having an affair with his cousin at the time, which really is a different theory of relativity.
And who was he married to?
Maria Schweigel von Stuck.
I thought it was Judith Chalmers.
Mrs. Marriage was her name.
Mrs. Marriage? Oh, how amusing. How
Not
very
really.
funny.
No, not in any way. The Einsteins' marriage went from bad to worse, although evidently they did reach a compromise. She agreed to accept that gravitational force is a property of space and relative time, and he agreed to put the towel down when he got out of the bath. And finally, Paul and Elvis.
Ah, yes, yeah, Action Man. This is Action Man's 30th birthday. Those are 4, I think. Oh, that's Julian, that last one. I remember that. And Tony Banks wants it banned because it's a military toy. And there's Action Man when he's relaxing.
Yes, did you recognise any of the models? You said
The one was Julian.
Julian Clary.
yes, I just.
That is Julian Clary, obviously.
That's Peter Lilly.
Why is he's still got the Action Man scar on the side of his face, though, hasn't he?
I don't think that's a scar.
Oh, right.
What is it?
It's I think it's a love bite.
From somebody with very straight teeth. What, a love bite from a pencil?
The scar is one of his distinguishing features. Do you know what the other one is?
A pierced belly button.
He doesn't have anything downstairs.
Yeah, he lives in a bungalow.
Wouldn't that be upstairs?
So you said the eyes, well, downstairs, upstairs, a bungalow's on one level, you moron.
Not if it's got a cellar, you moron.
Bungalows don't have cellars.
They can do.
How?
If you dig one.
Well, you might as well say then you'll have an attic if you stick a great big box at the top and cut a hole in your roof.
Well, you could say that, yeah.
Well, you'd be wrong, though.
That's all we've time for on question.
And you have a string at the back and certain commands come out.
Yeah, I know, yes, I've had one. But there is...
You said I've had one. What have you had? An Action Man?
Action Man.
With hands that grip.
It is-
Which might have been the reason why you fell for him in the first place. Eyes grip, eyes moving, you know.
Yes. Yes, happy memories. Yes, this is Labour MP Tony Banks, it was, who has called for a ban on Action Man. Banks claims that although Action Man has softened its image of late, it still encourages violence, particularly when the shop assistant says that'll be £39.50. Action Man, I know how much it costs, you see.
Is that per hour?
Worth every penny. We're up a blind alley now, I think.
I don't care where you met him.
Action Man has been updated and comes with the latest accessory.
I bet he does.
Which is a ninja killer assassin combat knife, unless you're a Home Office inspector, in which case it's a handy butter spreader. Which model behaviour marks the end of this opening rubber, and it would appear that both teams have everything to play for, or at least 20 minutes to play for, being as it is 4-all. Before the supposed ecstasy of our second round, the very real agony of our caption competition. And we look forward to the panel's spontaneous response in around 20 minutes' time. So before round 3, we pause for a commercial break. Each of the following advertisements was the subject of an official advertising standards inquiry. All the teams have to do is identify the product, the nature of the complaint against it, and whether or not the complaint was upheld. What could be less simple? Ian and Gordon, look at this if you can.
It was a Benetton advert. They were trying to say that everybody, whether they're white or black or yellow, has the same colour heart. And buy a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And people complained saying, not only are you sick and cynical, but you're rather pathetic.
Do you know what the term for this kind of advertising is?
Rubbish.
Yes. In response to complaints about their Three Hearts poster, Benetton claimed that their campaign carries an anti-racist message. Apparently the United Colours of Benetton campaign has brought people of black, white and yellow skins together in their hatred of overpriced Italian pullovers. Paul and Elvis.
Yes, this was Ryanair, the Irish company, who used it as a post. This was the recent sort of hijack at Stansted, I think. And they used it as a poster, and they said something like they would have got there quicker if they'd flown Ryanair or something like that.
New from Ryanair, hostage class.
Yeah.
I think the actual logo was, it's amazing what lengths people will go to fly cheaper than Ryanair.
But that doesn't work, because they'd actually bought tickets.
That's right.
They had bought tickets.
Not the Sudanese hijackers, though, had they?
Well, how did they get on the plane? They must have had tickets.
They bought tickets to get on the plane, and then they hijacked it and took it to Stansted.
Did
the
they not rush
hijacked
it?
capital
They
of the world.
don't go on and say, have you got a boarding card? No, but I've got a gun. All right, go through.
The product was the Irish airline Ryanair, who received complaints which were upheld after using a photo of a Sudan Airways plane shortly after it had been hijacked with that slogan. Ryanair said that they obviously wouldn't have used the images if the hijack had ended in a bloodbath, presumably because Benetton would have got there first. Ian and Gordon.
Yes, this is...
It's Purcell, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a Persil commercial, and the reason that they complained about it was they felt that it was racist, I think, because Persil was showing people getting rid of black as a colour, shaking off the black spots, and somebody complained that it was racist, but it wasn't upheld.
Because when people wash their whites, they tend not to want them to go black. It's not racist, it's just something about washing.
You're absolutely right, yes, it was not upheld. What was it for?
Persil.
More precisely?
Persil.
Persil automatic.
Persil stain release system is obviously what
How
you,
unpleasant. It's a very special washing up powder for special clients.
Where do they release the stains? Sort of into the community?
I think that's something else.
And lastly, Paul and Elvis, Beaver España.
It's 1830 holidays.
How did you guess?
Wasn't it that they said, well, people who go on 1830, the holidays sort of know what to expect, so it's not offensive to them?
Yeah, they said that their
But the
justification...
posters were taken out of circulation because people who don't go on 18 to 13 holidays saw them at the side of the road and said, what's a beaver? And where's España? No, they didn't really, but they were offended. Whereas people who go on 18 to 30 holidays can't read.
Yet again, one of Ian's irrational prejudices just swims out.
In light of the success of this campaign, Saga Holidays has now developed a new series of posters to attract pensioners, and the advertising authorities are already investigating complaints about their slogan, "Get your teeth out for the lads." Which some are loving, happens so fast that it's time to vacate this second round, and the position is that Paul and Elvis are currently grounded with 7, whilst Ian and Gordon are up and away with 9. And so to round 3, odd one out is quite literally the name of the game. Paul, your 4 man mountains are Mr. Blobby, Zeus, Stonehenge, and Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton?
Bless you. Now, would you like to say it again?
Yes, certainly.
What's she done?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly, how do you spell in pardon?
P-A-R-T-O-N.
And it's pronounced?
Pardon.
It's pronounced?
In America, it is pronounced pardon. Obviously.
Well, like Bill Clinton.
Back me up on this, Elvis. I think it's pronounced pardon.
No.
Now, Zeus, or Zeus... he's the only one who's managed to train 2 pigeons to get him home at night. It's theme
From Orange, I
parks,
think.
isn't it? It's theme parks.
what
So there was
way?
a Mr. Blobby theme park, and there's a Pardon theme park called Dollywood. And there's one, I think, opening up in Greece, based Myth World, which is like, that's not Chris Eubank saying Miss World, that's Myth. So I would suspect Stonehenge is the only one that I think they're planning to sort of like they're planning a thing where you can go underneath it or something. But at the moment you're not allowed to go near it. But all the other things have theme parks or have had theme parks associated with them.
Is very nearly the right answer.
Oh, so it's not Stonehenge then? Well, I
actually
suppose
Stonehenge.
it must be. Well, I know. Well, Mr. Blobby's
Oh,
theme
Mr.
park
Blobby's got
is
two
closed.
theme parks.
Oh, no, that's it,
Mr.
yeah.
Blobby's theme park is closed. That's
Only
the
one
in
of them.
Morg-
I'm just saying there's another one in Crinkley Bottom, which is at Cricket St Thomas, which hasn't closed.
Yeah, but the one in Morecambe has.
Is the right answer.
What do you mean is the right answer?
The bit when he went, is the right answer.
One of
Yes.
them hasn't closed, Angus. I'm just telling you, I've been there.
You've been to Mr. Blobby's theme park?
Yep.
I'm surprised he let you out.
So have you been to Dollywood as well?
What is Dollywood? Have you been there?
No.
Didn't you go there when you were recording in Nashville?
No.
Wasn't it open in those days?
No.
No.
Is that why?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good thing your songs are a bit longer.
Elvis, your natural selection comprises Tony Benn, Emma Thompson, Rupert Murdoch, and King Charles I.
I would say that Tony Benn is a famous Republican in one sense of the word, and certainly Rupert Murdoch's done his best to bring down the monarchy. And I suspect that Emma Thompson may have the same sympathies, and Charles I had his head cut off, so he's the odd one out.
It is sadly right. Yes.
Why sadly? Why sadly right? Why
I
sadly?
was hoping to be able to give Elvis a clue, which was that it could, of course, have included you, couldn't it? Having spoken out for republicanism in the past.
No.
I put it to you that you said in the Daily Telegraph, I wait for the day when they announce that they're going to publicly behead the Duke of Westminster in Parliament Square.
Oh yeah, that I forgot.
On the day of his execution, Charles I wore two vests because if he shivered, people might have thought that he was shaking with fear.
That's right.
For similar reasons, he also carried a bag of strong-smelling manure. Gordon, you're famous for are the Queen's favourite picnic spot, Nicholas Villarule's nose, Bruno the dog, and Paul Merton's garden.
Those garden gnomes have grown.
Did you know the bottom of your garden was a public toilet?
It's things found, I think.
I think it is. He's found something.
He's found a couple of blokes in his
In
garden.
his boiler suit, he's found something, so that counts. No, there was a bomb or something washed up in the Queen's favourite picnic site in Scotland, wasn't there? On the beach. There was a big bomb or some relic.
It's unexploded things, isn't it? That's
Oh, get it away! We know you. How could you know? It's your flaming garden. Was this the guy that snored for 20 years and they found a rubber up his nose or something? When I say rubber, I mean eraser. Lest there be any misunderstanding.
No, heaven forbid.
Or something up his nose, but the odd one out is the dog, because the dog found something.
He must be a sniffer dog.
Found a couple of hand grenades in my back garden.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, of course you know that. It's your back garden. You put
Yes.
them there. Said, let's see if the builders dig this up, that'll frighten them.
I think that's a sniffer dog, certainly. And I think that bloke had nitro up one nostril and glycerine up the other. And he said, I sneeze and there goes Hartlepool.
The answer is that they're all places where explosive devices have failed to detonate, apart, unfortunately, from inside Bruno the dog. Last month, Bruno saved a baby's life by snatching a firecracker from her grasp and swallowing it. The firecracker then went off in his stomach, which wasn't as bad as it sounds because Bruno was unharmed, and it was the first time ever that his dog food had been properly cooked.
You wouldn't want to be standing behind him when it happened, though, would you?
Nicholas Villarule was working in a car factory when a small airbag detonator accidentally shot up his nostril. He was rushed to hospital.
How small was this airbag? Was that to protect spiders in a car crash?
It was an airbag detonator, not an airbag.
Oh, I see. I do beg your pardon.
yes. No, no.
I do beg your dolly.
It's all right. He was rushed to hospital, where, using microsurgery, doctors carefully picked the detonator out of his nose and then wiped it on the underside of the nearest chair. Fortunately, the grenade found in Paul Murden's back garden did not explode, or the world of show business would have lost one of its funniest and best-loved comedians. And finally in this round, Ian, your specialist subject, Björk, Oasis, Reg Presley, and Shaggy.
Shaggy.
He's a character in Scooby-Doo.
Who's that? Björk.
Have you just been sick, or...?
Well, they're all pop singers. They've all done Elvis Costello songs.
No.
Oliver's army is here today.
Do you know if you Angus, give him the glasses, go.
Oh, right,
Oliver's army is here today. There's a song about Cromwell.
Yeah.
It's the only reason I know it.
It's to do with the rabbits at Charles de Gaulle Airport.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a glut of rabbits at Charles de Gaulle Airport, and they've had to cull them, and Reg Presley is responsible for airport safety throughout the world.
He's just talking a plane in there, look. To me. He's got the binoculars, yeah? Yes, you. One of the things about Reg Presley is he's invented a machine that scares birds off runways.
And rabbits.
It is.
Gary Glitter's designed a new seatbelt for 747s. There's a lot of people do it, more than you'd think, actually.
Yes.
So Reg Presley's the only one who actually who's done something positive for airports, and all the other ones have been involved in altercations at airports.
It's an excellent and almost entirely inaccurate answer.
No!
We weren't in the right ballpark.
You were in a closer ballpark, given that it's to do with Belgium's biggest band.
Who are Belgium's biggest band?
Well, in Italy they're called Proefie. In Flemish they're called Schtroumpf. We know them as the Smurfs.
They tried to cover an Oasis song.
Yeah.
Oasis said they wanted to cover Wonderwall.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to.
The only one they've been allowed to cover is Reg.
I think it's the only one they've not been allowed
Which
to
one?
cover.
Is what I just said. Just said Oasis.
We just said it, yeah.
No,
Yeah, the only one.
It was Wonderwall.
Oh, they're all desperate for points now. Yes, it is. That is the right answer. The answer is that they've all allowed the Smurfs to record cover versions
Apart
except
from Oasis.
Oasis. Thank you. According to The Sun, the Belgian cartoonist Peyo got the idea for the little blue singing men at a party when someone asked him to pass the salt. Presumably that's Class A Colombian salt. Which cartoon capers mark the end of our odd round, and the current crisis surrounds Ian and Gordon, who have a sketchy 11, whilst Paul and Elvis have an animated 13. Sadly, we now have to brave our own final missing words round, this week's guest publication, from which some or no headlines will be taken, being none other than the esteemed periodical The Gas Installer, on sale every Tuesday, or at least they say Tuesday. So let's away with Clark. I won't play what?
Twister. He won't.
I won't play politics.
No.
Saxophone.
Not saxophone either.
Monopoly with Eddie George.
Widow Twankey. He's been offered pantomime.
No.
Santa Claus.
Santa is the right answer. Very good. Next, boycott used me as what?
A gas installer.
Cricket box.
Is it a sex toy? A finger bowl? Somebody was at a party, they drank some water, had a bit of lemon, and he just stuck his fingers in and did that.
sex toy is the right answer, although it mentions nothing about a finger bowl. Next, the 11th commandment, thou shalt not what?
Make up new commandments.
Thou shalt not service old cookers. I'm not referring to Mrs. Bridges and upstairs, downstairs.
No, really. No, pass the buck is the answer, according to Chief Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Sachs, who says declining moral standards are the fault of Mrs. Thatcher. Next, confetti addict gets what?
New gas boiler.
Paper cut. Very, very sharp confetti.
Yes.
Fired out the back of a dog that had a firework go off in it. Happened at a wedding. Married.
Not
Divorced.
from the gas installer. Confetti addict gets another fix is the right answer. Married is the nearest. Finally, watch out, there's what about?
Oh, it's got to be a gas installer.
A saxophone.
Yeah, saxophone. Watch out, there's a saxophone about.
What is it with you and saxophones?
What's it with you and Action Man?
Watch out, there's a new
We've lost already.
gas meter about is the right answer.
I must get a point for gas installer.
Well, given that you're 4 points down, yes, all right. Which tragedy of errors means that all's well that ends, as we now do, and the unwelcome news is that this week's Paul Gascoignes are Ian and Gordon with 14, while this week's Bamba Gascoignes are Paul and Elvis with 17. So, a night out with the Spice Girls to our winners, a night out with the Smurfs to our losers. It's time then for us all to hit Stringfellow. But first, the return of our caption competition.
Are you sure this is how you play the saxophone? When you said you were going to enter a horse at the Grand National...
On which conclusive note, we say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and Gordon Kennedy, Paul Merton and Elvis Costello. And I leave you with news that due to a diary mix-up, the Prime Minister appeared tonight at a highly inappropriate conference. There's a nasty moment for a young cadet as he struggles to remember if he left his safety catch on. And there's a light-hearted moment at a Labour rally as Robin Cook fails to let go of a party balloon. Good night.